Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Kyle Mitchell with us. Kyle is a founder and a CEO at Social Anxiety Help. He helps teens with their mental health and their social anxiety, their confidence. He's a speaker, TEDx speaker, that is, podcast host. He does a bunch of things. So today we're going to talk about anxiety, teen anxiety, social anxiety, teen mental health, and teen social anxiety. So I hope that I made you anxious by mentioning the word anxiety 7 times in a row. Kyle, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you do nowadays.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Charles. So a little bit about what I do. Well, I go around and I speak to primarily teenagers. So I'm talking to like middle, high school students across the United States, talking about not just social anxiety, but general anxiety, kind of overall mental health. How you go about taking care of that, how you go about being proactive with that. What are some things that you can do if you start to feel anxious. So it's all just about giving them the information. And I chose teens to focus on because that was one of the more troubling times of my life. I struggled mightily, especially in high school, with social anxiety. And so once I kind of got out and started doing my own thing, I realized, hey, I want to help others who are struggling like I was, because I wish I had somebody that gave me some information while I was in high school. So I'm just trying to give back, and we're not trying, but I am giving back and being the person that I wish I had when I was in high school. So in a nutshell, that is what Kyle Mitchell does.
Interesting. I often reflect about high school because I was the popular kid in primary school, and then high school, all of that went to shit. I was a fish in a bigger pond, was still hanging out with the popular crew, but I wasn't the top alpha dog. I had my puberty a bit later on, so I was like smaller than the other kids,
Yeah,
and some of my friends would make fun of that and so forth. But reflecting on that, I think high school has been hard for pretty much everyone, like not just for me. My friends were going through some shit too. They just didn't mention, like
sure.
us little egotistic, testosterone filled creatures. So there's like a lot of instability in teenage years. Why is that exactly?
Still trying to figure out who you are. Well, that and kind of like what you mentioned, the puberty thing. So you're starting to become who you are in a physical standpoint, and then you're trying to catch up mentally. And so there's a lot of just kind of questioning yourself. What I see a lot is a lot of students don't love themselves. They get into this comparison trap, this comparison game with other people, and kind of like what you said just a minute ago, I think everybody struggles with in high school, but just a lot of people don't talk about it or show it. And that's kind of what everybody sees is the highlight reel of everybody else, whether it's in real life or if you're looking on social media. We've all got caught up in that comparison game before. I know I have. You see, other people, oh, they're doing this, they got this awesome job, they're going on vacation here, and it's like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm a piece of garbage. So I think that's something that a lot of students really struggle with. And like I said, it's just all about getting the information. If you know the information and how to work with those things and start to build your self love and start to build that confidence, you can feel a lot better about yourself. But in most schools, mental health is not a serious part of the curriculum, like at all.
Yeah, in my time was Facebook, like how old are you right now? Like 25-ish?
Appreciate it. 30.
30? Yeah, you look like a teen, dude. Probably because you shave. I would look similar without like this facial hair.
Yeah.
To compliment that did stay at that stage, right when you hit the 30s. So, I mean, we're the same age. I'm 32, 30 also, that is. High school, we had Facebook, but yeah, like the likes, like if you had like more than 50 likes, you were considered cool, and 100, you were like popular and so forth. So, but I
Mm.
didn't check that too much. Think, yeah, it got somewhat toxic with my friends when we started competing on like who could drink the most, and who could get the most fucked up. And I often also reflect about that and why did we do this, you know? Yes, there were these social games. Me, I remember vividly, like it was who you were sitting with in high school, you know, like what table you would sit with. And I
Yeah.
remember if I would somehow, I don't know, be the first to order food, and if I would sit alone at my table, I would get this mad anxiety, you know, like, oh, I'm sitting alone and people are passing me by. What will they think about me? They'll think
Yeah.
I'm, you know, like not socially accepted and so forth. And I think to bury all of this pain and this lack of guidance, because yeah, obviously the school wouldn't help us with that, neither would my parents, you know, neither are most parents. My parents were good, but they just didn't have a clue. You
Yeah.
start burying that pain with alcohol, the partying. I'm not sure about kids nowadays. Some must like get pretty anxious about all that social media stuff. Some must be thinking about killing themselves. Some must go on meds and so forth. Has it gone worse since our time?
Um, it's hard to tell because it just may be more of an open topic now. I think I'll say that definitely post COVID got worse. Everybody getting, at least here in the States, everybody getting locked down, not, exercising that social muscle of, being around people all the time, and you're doing online school and all that stuff for a year. And then you come back to this social environment and your brain's kind of like haywire because it doesn't know how to interact. You start feeling anxious. So many students have told me they never really struggled with anxiety or social anxiety before COVID happened, and then after, and after all that happened, and they went back to school again. All of a sudden, it was they were on 100 of anxiety like all the time, especially in social situations. Which is, I mean, understandable given the circumstances, I think. So so yeah, I think it has gotten a little bit worse for sure. I mean, you look at the teen suicide rates have like skyrocketed for sure since when you and I were in high school. Social media is a lot more prevalent now. Kind of like you, Facebook was really the only one that people used, and now there's tons of them now. So everybody's on 5 different platforms. So there's just a lot more. I think people consume information a lot more on their phones, which is fine, but you have to find a balance with that. Because I mean, you if you don't ever use your phone or you're never on social media, you're going to be behind. You're going to be at a disadvantage. So you have to find a way to be able to utilize those things without it, taking you down. So I think it's all just about finding balance, what works for you, and just trying not to be on your phone 12 hours a day is really helpful.
Right. I remember in my days some cyberbullying as well. And I think teens are very harsh, you know. So yeah, there's new change in their body, in their psyche as well, new biochemistry in there, testosterone, estrogen, and so forth. So lots of confusing and lots of A/B testing in these periods. You're just trying a bunch of things, you know, and see what sticks. Me, in my case, I was the class clown, so it's like what joke can have people laugh. But sometimes these jokes, you know, they hurt people, and you know, especially people that are insecure. And I was insecure. I think we all were, you know, like we didn't.
Yeah,
Me and my friends, we dissed each other pretty much all the time, probably in the name of solidifying that shield. But yeah, sometimes it hurts people. So I remember that instance in which also there was this guy that posted nudes about yeah, his ex-girlfriend, and like everyone knew, you know. So and I think she probably thought of killing herself at that point, because it's
sure.
quite hurtful to have that. So how can these, I mean, teenagers are usually quite brutal with their words. So is there a way they can moderate that, or is just part of the game and you need to adapt to it?
As far as is there a way to keep students from doing that? It's a tough one. I mean, I think a lot of it, the cyberbullying and, yeah, just being really harsh towards other, just not even cyberbullying, but bullying in person. I mean, it all stems from it, from internal space. So like they probably are having some some problems with themselves inside and like not feeling the best about themselves for the way for them to feel good about themselves is to put others down, therefore they feel elevated up. um and a lot of that sometimes has to do with like home issues and what's going on and kind of how you're growing up, what your parents are like, that type of thing. But I think one thing to help with that is to bring that information to those people, those students that are, doing that, and, help them build that self love. You start to love yourself. You're not going to go bully other people because it's just not something you're going to do now. You feel good about you. Like I feel good about Kyle, so I'm not going to go hate on everybody else. And, I obviously, I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, so I'm not going to go do that to them. But yeah, I mean, and like the cyberbullying's definitely a real thing. That's something that I've had to really kind of like mentally work on, especially in the beginning when I first started, doing this, and I post lots of content on YouTube and all the different social media stuff. And, some people like really love the work. And then some people just come on there and they just try to hate on you. They just try to troll you to get a reaction out of you. And if you sit there and take all those comments to heart and that's all you're reading, it can really mess with you mentally. So you really just have to know that from, like my stance too, of like, okay, like these people are probably dealing with their own type of pain. So I'm not gonna like come at them and try to attack or defend myself. It's just more of an ignoring game. If I do reply, I like to reply with kindness. That's an interesting one. So like for example, I remember the first time I ever did this, somebody like trolled on me and like was just saying some nasty stuff to me on one of my videos or something. I don't even really remember the context, but I remember looking through his profile and I saw he was an artist and like he made all these like cool like paintings and stuff. So I just replied to him, was like, "Hey, I looked at your artwork. Like that stuff's like really cool. Like keep it up." Just totally ignored what he said to me. And then from then on, he like started being nice to me and commenting nice on my stuff. And that just kind of shows to you like people like that, they need that positive intention. Like that's what they're looking for. Not to say you should just be nice to every bully who comes to you, but I'm certain some circumstances that, like I said, kind of quote unquote killing them with kindness is very helpful. But for the most part, I just try to ignore that stuff.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I mean, what comes up to my mind with someone that you can convert from a hater to a follower, it shows weakness in my book, that is in my CEO book and in my Tough Man's book. Just shows that, yeah, someone can be that easily manipulated. The only thing that I found, because my mindset with that, like with hate, I just don't reply ever, right? So that
Yeah,
was stage one. Well, stage one was replying. Okay. And by the way, someone should
yeah,
launch a course on how to handle hate. I think they would become quite rich. The step
yeah,
two was replying. That wasn't good. The yeah, no, the step one was replying. The step two was replying but not sending, right? So writing an answer but like not sending it. And the step three is like complete ignore. Now, my mentality is like, okay, if I let these people reply on my stuff, it's good because I'm like an outlet to their pain. But what I've realized is that it just strengthens the circuits in them, their hate circuits. And every time they hate, it strengthens itself before they officially become some hater. And yeah, there's obviously science behind these people that write these comments, they're on the brink of burnout, or they're not feeling happy, so they just put that pain onto others. Now, yeah, I feel just letting these go, because at some stage, if you're gonna hit the scale and, become really popular, you just won't be able to handle all of these, whatever the algorithm is. If you reply more, you're gonna get more views. Yeah, I just prefer ignoring pretty much all of them, which is also sad because there's people that you like in this life. I don't know, like Tim Ferriss, for example, and you know that Tim Ferriss won't
Mm.
reply to any of your stuff, like because he's been hating on so much and so forth. On that topic, one of the most hated men of the world is Andrew Tate. You made some videos about the advice that the guy gives. Me,
Yep.
like at first Tate or Trump or these types of people, like I have like a visceral reaction to them. I'm like, yeah, these are total idiots. But then I open my mind up and I'm like, okay, I'm appreciative of some of your stuff, even if it's very small percentages. I think that they have like a different message. They have balls as well, which I do respect. But my main take on these guys, and Tate particularly, his audience is young teens, and I don't think he's helping them much as well. He's creating like megalomania and testosterone and misogyny and like all of these things, and that's certainly what the youth needs. They might need a part of what he teach, entrepreneurship and making money. That's good. I'm all about that, but most of his philosophies, I mean, he preaches a lot of extreme stuff to get a lot of views, right? So that he can make more money. That's like the system behind here. It's definitely not helping young men. Or at least it
Mm.
comes from a place of anger from him, which usually is not going to be beneficial. It's going to burn on itself. So what's your opinion on the guy? And what would you do instead?
Yeah, I think most people would probably, if you watch my content, you might think that I hate Andrew Tate or disagree with everything that he says. No, no, I don't. I don't hate Andrew Tate by any means. I don't agree with everything he says. Some of the stuff I really agree with. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Somebody needs to be saying this type of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm down with it. But kind of like with what you said, he takes it to the extreme, and it's like, yes, but not that far, man. Like, no, that's way too extreme with it. So yeah, and like you said, most of his fan base is like teenage boys, and so it's, they're developing this kind of toxic masculinity kind of mindset. Like I said, some of his stuff I really like. His stuff on entrepreneurship is pretty good. I pretty much don't have any problem with that for the most part. Some of the stuff on, how to be a man, I agree with a lot of it, but like I said, he goes too far in some of the stuff, and probably because he can get the views that way. And I think he actually does believe most of the stuff he says. At least he seems like it. Um, but I mean, I think the back half of your question was what would I do different? I guess just stop being so extreme with it. And I think he fails to explain some things. Like the big one is his take on depression. Um, which that's the video that I get a lot of hate on that one, and I think people don't watch the full video or don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not real sure, but it's one of those videos I never reply to the comments because they're just flooding in all the time, and most of them are haters. Um, but yeah, his take on depression is it's one of those things. Like I agree up with him up to an extent, and then he crosses the line. I'm like, well, that's not it. But saying that depression isn't real, and well, obviously depression is real. I think I know what he's trying to say, but I think the phrase of saying it isn't real means makes a lot of people feel like if you're feeling depressed, you're fake and you're full of it, which is not the message you want to push out there. I think what he's trying to say, what I think he's trying to say is depression's more of a mindset. Whereas if you're feeling depressed, like you are choosing to be depressed. Now something can trigger you to feel that way, but you can get out of depression. And he talks about, hitting the gym, going out there, working out, doing these types of things. All true. Those things will get you out of depression. Those things are extremely hard to do when you are feeling depressed, but it's one of those things where you just have to like, shut up, Kyle. I'm going to do this. I don't care how bad I don't want to do this. I'm going to go and make myself do this thing. Because you can choose to be depressed your entire life if you want to. And it's okay to be sad and you feel that way for a little bit, but don't let yourself drag out for, months, years of feeling that way. I mean, it's not fair to you. And it's a lack of self-love on your part. But what I always tell people is you're allowed to have those feelings, but you need to sit with it, accept it, process it, move forward. Don't stick with it in any of those feelings forever. You don't want to be there. And same thing with feeling depressed. It's yeah, I see it more of like a mindset that that mindset can be triggered by something. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel depressed if God forbid your mother passes away or something. You're gonna feel sad. You're gonna feel depressed. And I think a lot of people take his message and it's just like, no, you're not ever allowed to feel that way. And it's like, stop, stop. Like obviously you've never gone through any sort of trauma in your life, but you are going to feel that way at some point. But you don't want to stay that way forever for long periods of time. So that's just one example of one of the things I'm like, I agree up to an extent, but I think you take it to the extreme, man.
Well, I agree with pretty much everything that you said. I think depression is a disease of comfort, like our ancestors, they didn't even have time to be depressed, else they would die. They're
Yeah.
now that the full Maslow is taken care of, and us humans have a bunch of food, water, or cell phones, we have too much fucking serotonin. Now everyone has backgrounds, right? That's how you build yourself in this life. You've been educated in some way. And if you
Yeah.
start from a background of comfort and no one has ever taught you to get out of that comfort zone, yeah, depression is this hole is hard to get out of. This life is complex, and I think that's why AI can help us make a lot of conclusion and percentages. Everyone has different backgrounds, and yeah, exactly like you said it. If you tell someone like, "Yo, your thing is not real," then they might get pissed. Now, Tate has probably thought of that, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna slap these people across the face so that they can get out of that." But not everyone reacts this way, right? Actually, most humans, they react defensively when you insult their identity. And that's also another point. A lot of people, they identify themselves with that depression. It's literally a part of their identity now. Like, I'm this depressed person, right? Now, who benefits from that? Doctors and pharma industry, right? They
Yeah.
sell tons of antidepressants in all Western countries. So I do agree with Tate that depression is like this mindset, and you can get yourself out of it. Now you need to strengthen these pathways in the brain, because the brain has strengthened the pathways of not moving, of being lazy, and so forth. So there is some big rehabilitation in that. The problem, and I think that Tate's theory is that if he goes extreme, he will cause extreme change, or he will disrupt things and move things around. But I think the net effect of that, and that's not complex science, I just think that he pisses a lot of people out. Are these people eventually going to change? I don't think so. I think most humans hate change. I think he's just going to piss them off. He's going to put his life in danger. He's going to be going to jail. So I wish that we would have like more scientific thesis on this world and test out our philosophies, with like what he's doing. I mean, he's probably influencing some of these kids in a good direction. For example, my first mentor, he was this really eccentric guy, right? He wasn't like anything like Tate, but he was controversial. And he boosted me up in this life. He propelled me in this market, while a bunch of people would disagree with some of his methods. Fortunately, I had a brain. I would question his ethics. I would question some of his stuff that he taught me, and I got on the right path. So do you think that these Tate followers, for example, will test out his philosophy out there, might modify themselves, and Tate might have an actual good effect on them, teaching them entrepreneurship, and then the market and society will kind of tell them, look, you can't do this, you can't think that way, or do that. Do you think Tate will have a net positive effect on society?
Good question. Um, I mean, I'm gonna say probably have a net positive. Um, and just getting more people in the entrepreneurship world, and I mean, hands down, he definitely helps a lot of people start to gain their own confidence. If you follow some of the stuff that he says to do, putting yourself outside your comfort zone, getting yourself in the gym, feeling better, start building confidence that way. I mean, those are all really good things to do. Those are all things that I tell people to do. I just tell them in a different way, but so I think he's having net positive in that sense. And I think his message of depression isn't real, shut the heck up and just get up and do something is really helpful to some people. Some people need that message, and that clicks for them and that works. And it's like, oh, he's right. I got to go up and go do something. And then there's some people that, feel depressed and they hear that message and then they just feel worse. It's like that you just dug them in a deeper hole, and they can't take that message. You made them feel worse about themselves. So I think it works for some people it doesn't. Yeah,
Tough
I guess,
question.
yeah, yeah, it's hard. I think it's probably gonna have a net positive, and maybe that's just my optimistic side of me talking, but yeah.
We need a quantum computer with running on AI to answer that, but me, I'd say like overwhelmingly negative effect on society, for pissing people off. And, like we said, most humans, they don't change, so you just piss them off more.
Yeah.
Now, there's one last topic, it's quick here because we're out of time. Yeah, actually, closing this off, closing remarks. I just think that Tate, he's trying to fight also the woke movement, which to me is also overwhelmingly negative on society. I think you and I, we know that a bunch of young men, they don't have a fatherly presence also in their life. They don't know what it's to be a man. There's a lot of wisdom to teach a man. That is if they identify themselves to a man, right? To be a man, or even a woman if she wants to be a man. There's a lot of value in teaching someone of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a leader. The man word can be interchanged for many other things here. It's just easy to communicate, this concept here. And I think that, yeah, just for that, Andrew can be potentially beneficial because young men need to have that leadership, that risk-taking ability, and
Yeah.
to take more on their shoulders. And I think that's been lost in society. Where can people find out more about you, Kyle?
Yeah, pretty much every social media, social anxiety, Kyle. YouTube's the primary one. So if you're gonna go check one out, that one out. I also have a website, socialanxietykyle.com. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, anything like that. I reply back to everybody. So